Hello everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Disruptive Innovation Festival, the online festival that asks the question, what if we could redesign everything? I'm delighted today to welcome Justine and Briou to the digital stage. In 2012, they've created a design company dedicated solely to the circular economy and the activation of it. This company is named Witha. As for today, around 80% of the impacts of a product or a service are decided at the ideation, design stage, where design hasn't always been used wisely. In this session, we're going to find out how to truly understand the ecosystem and your partner's ecosystems with relation to the circular economy. And Justine and Briou propose some tools and methods to create this deeper understanding. For everybody that is watching, don't forget this is an interactive session. So if you have any questions or comments, post them in the comment box underneath this video or tweet using hashtag ThinkDiff. For now, welcome Justine and Briou. I would say stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone, so we're gonna share the slides in just 1 second, if it's okay.
So thank you for the introduction. Just briefly, just for you to understand better who are we and who is the Witha. Originally the Witha is Aboriginal name of the bowerbird, which is a bird living in Australia. And this bird builds nets to seduce female, as he is polygam. And the better the nests, the easier the seduction, obviously. So he uses all the elements around him in the ecosystems, so shells, fruits, flowers, and so on. And now, as the ecosystem changed, he has to evolve with it and to adapt itself. So he will build now with caps, cans, straws, and other elements. And the funny fact is that it works even better for the seduction. And as a Witha, what we want to do is to use creativity to transform constraints into opportunities and to transform waste into resources. Because actually, we want to make disappear the very notion of waste. And why we want to do it? Because waste is like a human creation and it's a nonsense in the economy. So we want to integrate that all the waste are resources from the beginning, that means from the conception step.
So to go much further, actually, we as you know, we have to make our economy more circular. So here is an idea scheme to illustrate it. We really think that we have a lot of values to create with this new paradigm. So to go a bit further, we think that the innovation is in this circular economy need to be smart. What do we mean by being smart? That means that we have to be at the center of these four areas, 4 parameters. So the business, the technologies, and the human aspects. So like in the design thinking traditionally, but we need to integrate it with nature. So if we consider nature in a good way, like a source of opportunity and new ideas, like we do with biomimicry, we can really go in the center of these 4 areas and to reach the smart innovation. So that's why we have to go much further and to innovate in a different way. So if we want to reach it, we have to apply the design principles. So the life principle for it. Sorry. So what are they actually? You can find very different ones, but if we have to be simple, let's remind these 3 ones. So the first one is to consider waste as a resource. Actually, the human species is the only one on Earth to to know this notion of waste. Every species in this world consider everything as a resource. So with the waste, with this notion of waste, we lose a lot of opportunities. I mean, economic, social, and environmental ones. So we have to consider everything as a resource. Then we have to optimize resources rather than maximize them. Actually, it's quite simple, but in a forest, you won't see any a tree that will go up forever. Once it has reached a good size, let's say, it will give the excess of its resources to the smaller ones. So we have to cooperate with the other ones. And the last principle is to multiply the local synergies. So that means that you have to consider your ecosystem, all the actors around you. And that's quite interesting because you cannot imagine in the natural context some clownfishes living without corals. So it's simply impossible. And the same is true for the coral survivals, actually. So we have to integrate that. Without this interaction and this cooperation, we can go further.
The thing is that today in our economy, like we are mainly based on competition. The economy is conducted by competition in everything, in management, education, production, and so on. And this is also the base for the linear economy. And even if it seemed to have worked well so far, on a global scale, we realize, and we are still realizing, that we waste a lot of the resources we use, the human ones, financial ones, natural ones. As an example, to see that we waste a lot, we could take the food industry, in which industry we waste, for example, 1/3 of the food we produce is not consumed, mainly and only because the actors do not share the information and resources correctly. And in other words, that means they don't fully cooperate. And these food wastes are not even upcycled because they are not reintegrated into the agriculture system. And this is not profitable for anyone. Retrospectively, we understand that in a world with limited resources, that means wasting both human and natural resources is not sustainable, and it's simply impossible. So it's the same for clownfishes, as we said. This is simply impossible to continue this way. That's why we really need to cooperate, and we will now tell you how to do it.
Yeah, so actually before going on the tools we developed, you have to be sure that you will observe and understand your context. So to ensure this cooperation, and embrace the complexity of your system, you need to consider all the interactions with the elements around you. So observe who are the key stakeholders, what they do actually currently, and what they can do. What are the main energy use and supply? What are the main flows and resources at each step of the life cycle? Because each step and each actor is a new opportunity for creating a new valuable loop.
Once you observed, obviously you have also to consider all the interaction levels. And by levels, we mean both diversity between the interactions you will develop, and also the time, because the kind and strength of interaction will not be the same within the system. Why? Because the needs and the competencies of all the stakeholders will not be the same. So you really need to think to diversify and to enhance diversity in the synergies you will develop. And you also have to keep in mind that interactions will evolve in time. That is why you need to consider evolution and diversification of the synergies. And doing so, you will be more agile and win agility and responsive ability to adapt when you will need to do it.
So then, when you apply cooperation principles in your work, you can easily create values for all the actors. And when we talk about values, once again, it's about economic, social, and environmental values. So that means we can go much further. And as Michael Porter said in an article published in 2011, what is good for your ecosystem, for your community, is good for your company as well. So that's why you need to integrate a new way of working, not only with competition, but with cooperation as well. For example, you have a company, a global company, which is called Interface. They cooperate with Philippine fishermen to collect the lost fish nets and upcycle them. So by doing so, they ensure a new supply chain to produce their carpets. They help the ocean regeneration, and they give the fishermen new revenues. So you see that when you create with this way of doing, it's much more valuable for everyone. So how to do so? Because it seems very interesting, but most of the times when you need to act, it's much more complicated. So to help you to develop valuable synergies on your scale, I mean a microeconomic scale or on your company scale, you need to identify the key stakeholders and consider the interaction with the others. So we developed a tool which is called the Circular Partners that you can download for free on the Circular website. And it's a kind of workshop that can be led in an early stage during the observation phase before generating solutions, to be sure that you know all the stakeholders that will be involved in your project. So yeah, that's just the beginning. And then here is the board actually. To introduce it quickly, you have the origin. So what part of the company will be considered? Is it the factory? Is it the stores?
The headquarters.
The headquarters. That's the origins that you have to define. Then you have all the distance with the origin, with the company. And then you have all the different steps of the life cycle. And then you will be able to place the different stakeholders. But how does it work? Just before, you have a preparation work to do.
Okay. First of all, you obviously have to define the issue you will work on or the project, depending on the step you will work on. And the better is to gather your teams and not to do it by your own, obviously. And defining the issue will help you also to define the origin of the graph we just introduced. That means if you will work speaking about the headquarters or about the factory. And we all know that defining the issue is a key part in the process and in the workshop. So really don't forget doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you have to list every stakeholders that can be involved in this situation. So when we talk about stakeholders, we mean physical or moral person in the company or outside the company. So usually you will easily find 15 to 25 different actors.
After that, you have to anticipate the intervention in the life cycle. And why you do that? Because every step of the life cycle and every level is a new opportunity of loop, of a valuable loop in the project you'll develop. So by taking into account and integrating every step of the life cycle, you will see much more opportunities to develop synergies and to optimize the resources you will work on. So let's start from the financing step to the upcycling one. So yeah.
And then you have to consider the location. We think usually that the closer is the stakeholder from the entities that we decided to focus on, the easier the resilience capacity will be. So try to anticipate this and try to have better interactions with your local partners.
Yeah, and last but not least, once you have list all the stakeholders and you are able to really and clearly see what are their location and their intervention in the life cycle, you have to mark the interest and the power of each one. So the interest to market, it will be to answer the question, is this issue or is the project we are working on important for this actor or not? And for the power, you just have to ask you and to wonder what is the actor's level of influence in the project and in the considered issue. And you can, for example, have a scale of 3 or 0. So if it does have power, you will just put 2 or 3, and if it does not, you will put 0.
And then after this marks, you will easily find your 5 key stakeholders that you have to involve. So sometimes you will have to create interest to actors or stakeholders that have a lot of power. So that's how you will create shared value. So how we can involve them, because at the moment we think that they are not interested with this. So you have to anticipate it to really create shared value with them and propose something that can be interesting.
And obviously it will, once you mark the interest in the power, we all know that in the circular economy we have to be dynamic and agile. So that's why also for the one who does not have interest at the moment, you will try to give them interest. So this is also the principle of shared value. So just keep in mind that this tool has been created to evolve with your project, and as we said before, with your stakeholders' needs and resources, obviously.
So if you want to download the tool, you can go on this website. You have the tool in English, in French, and in Spanish.
We also developed it in Dutch and German, so just ask for it.
And soon it will be published in Chinese. And we have a first question from Kirsty. How willing, in your experience, are businesses to consider and make this change? You mean, I guess you mean to consider the cooperation in the business? I mean, it really depends on the industry and the context of the industry with the circular economy and the scale of the company. Usually with small companies, it's quite easy to make them understand that cooperation is key for them. But for big companies that are not used to deal with different partners, it's quite hard for them to understand. But we have some good examples with big companies that understand that circular economy needs another way of thinking and of course another way of doing.
And sometimes what we will tend to do will be to make them willing to do it while gathering first of all the team in intern, and we will enhance cooperation between the team, doing the workshop with them, and doing that they will understand that cooperation is crucial to after that go to another step and gathering external partners and so on.
And then we have another question from Rickard. So how crucial is the role of communication in this tool? Actually, you have to do this workshop with, on a physical base. So it's quite hard to do it online, because most of the times the different stakeholders, I mean the different participants to the workshop, will have a lot of information and experiences to share. So you have to maximize the interactions, because most of the time they're really relevant and you can easily understand the context. And yeah, so that's why yeah, this way of doing the workshop is crucial.
And this is also all collective intelligence and so on, and creativity. We really count on dialogue between the players and the people who will fill in and use the tool, actually. So the role of communication is like crucial.
There's another question from Shiga. Can you elaborate on the word synergies, and what is a valuable synergy? Synergy is like a link with another company. It's a cooperation. It's a way of working and to add value to the other. So that means that when we work together, it's useful and valuable for both parties. So what can be a valuable synergy? It's something that is useful for both stakeholders.
And as we gave the example of the clone fishes, for example, a valuable synergy will be one. In symbiosis, it's the same thing. If you take an element out of the synergy, the other one will not survive, kind of. So this would be also a valuable synergy.
And here is another question from Michel. What's your favorite example of the circular economy in action? Any examples of really positive outcomes from using this tool already? So there are two different questions. I will take the second one. Actually, when we do a workshop with our clients, we do this workshop as a part of the Circular Challenge. So that means that we go from a global issue for the company, and we try to develop the solution to our issue with this. So it's part of a 5-day workshop. So this will take maximum 2 to 3 hours during the week. And actually, it's very interesting to do this workshop to clearly have all the information and to be sure that all the participants understand the context. And because most of the time in the company, the sales team or the marketing team or the production team are very different way of considering the clients, for example, or the customers, and that's really interesting to share this information. So this workshop do not give direct results, I mean, on the business, but it's very interesting to share the information and to be sure that the workshop will go on a very good atmosphere.
And for example, once it happens that we work, for example, in the building industry, and we did it with several professionals in the same industry, but that work at different levels. And they did not have realized all the opportunities and all the loop of upcycling they could develop, because it did not take into account all the stakeholders. And doing so, they were like, okay, we did not think about that, and we did not think that stakeholder will create value also for us and permit us, enable us to develop a new loop and a new project to optimize the resource. So, and its industry, it worked very well.
And to go back to the first question from Michel, my favorite example in the circular economy, it's with one of our clients, which is the French Post. They understood that most of their trucks, when they get back to the factory for the post, they were empty. And they realized that a small social company were collecting the papers in the different offices of very different companies. and they understood that if they cooperate with this social company, they could create a new revenue stream for them. So that's quite interesting, because after 3-4 years, they generated more than 10 million euros with this simple idea that we have to use the different trucks that are empty when they get back to the factory. So they give the envelopes, and they get back the old papers to be sure that they will be able to recycle it. So they cooperate with the social company that they finally acquired, and they cooperate with French paper recycling companies that really needed this new providing solution. So it's very simple. It comes with a very simple idea, but it's very powerful, actually.
How to extend the participant thinking to the long term and systems level? People from business usually live quarter to quarter year with numbers and targets. The solutions they think are not feasible are also due to their mind, which is in the status quo.
Yeah, it's a hard question, because we usually have to face it as well. Actually, we try to be positive with our clients, because we are pretty sure that if we try to scare them, we won't go very far. So we really try to make them understand that for the business, they have to see that, okay, today it can work. I mean, the business works, but we have to show them that if they try to continue on their Excel spreadsheet, it won't go that way, and maybe it will go that way. So that we have to anticipate them, the different facts that they will have to face, and to be sure that they understand it. And when they understand it, they will generate ideas, and we help them to do so. And if they're at the origin of these new ideas, they will make it. But of course, we know that that's very hard to make them switch in their way of thinking. But once you succeed, you can go much further. There's another question from Lenka. How do you overcome issues like lack of trust or fear of dependency, when getting stakeholders involved? It's a good question as well. Most of the times we realize that actually the stakeholders, I mean, on a specific situation, they do not know to each other. And we had a workshop once in the building industry with a territory responsible, a big company, a big building company, and a big provider of this company. And that was very fun, because they realized and they confessed to each other that they did not anticipate that they had exactly the same problems, but they were sure that the others participants did not deal with this problem the right way. But actually, they understood that they had very, very common problems. And once you have the meet, I mean, when they meet to each other and they understand the different situations, they are much more open to collaborate. And that's quite fun, because most of the times when the different stakeholders meet, you can be sure that it will go in a good way.
And also about lack of trust. That's also what we presented before. It depends on what is position you will have with the stakeholder. For example, if you are in a competition, contractual contract and so on, obviously the lack of trust will be here. But if from the beginning you speak more about partnership and so on, you will be much easier. It will be much easier for you to gain and to win the trust of the other, and also the contrary will be true. And the fear of dependency, it's also what we said before. We need to help each one. For example, the workshop we presented, it's better to do it with the stakeholders we want to involve, so that we try to diversify the interactions, so that we are not dependent on each one actor, but it's a whole ecosystem and system organized well.
So I actually want to jump in for this one. I think it's time for our final question of today's session. We've had a lot of questions coming in. That's great. Thanks for all the viewers for that.
Yes.
This question is a bit challenging, you guys. AB Designs asks you, what if I say circular economy is outdated? How will you justify this point?
Actually, there are different ways of giving an answer to this question. I think that circular economy, the first one, circular economy, I think it will be whatever we will do, it will be actually. Maybe it will be in a soft and positive way, or maybe it will be in a very raw way. So that won't be very fun, let's say. But there's another way of giving an answer to this question. Actually, circular economy is not new. Circular economy is much older than us, and maybe it appears like Earth actually. So that means 3.8 billion years ago. So it's just us as a human species that totally forgot life principles and this circular economy that was totally natural. So I think it's not outdated, but we are just coming back with this old idea that is the way actually the planet Earth works.
And we just have to organize it more than we designing a new thing.
All right, thanks a lot for that answer. It is very clear, and I really enjoyed your talk. Thanks a lot for that. We're going to be seeing you back on Wednesday with your French session. So for everybody who wants to follow it in the French version as well, Wednesday at 12 GMT. So thanks a lot, and everybody online, thanks a lot for viewing. If you want to see more DIF sessions, I can recommend one today at 7 p.m. GMT. It's from Tobias Rooney and Tom Gray about the trust economy, and they will discuss the two-sided question of the trust economy. So with tech blurring the age-old barriers between companies and consumers, they think trust has been never been more vital for business, nor potentially destructive. So tune in at 7 if you want to hear more about that. We also have DIF on demand. So if you've missed out of anything, don't worry. You can watch back all the sessions on thinkdiff.go. Thanks a lot, Justine and Briou, and for everybody viewing online. And that's it for now. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.